Okay, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so today I am going to be talking about women being sexualized in media. So sexualized is something being treated as an object of desire, and media in this case is basically anything that is being communicated widely with people. So lately, in the past 21st century, since media has been increasing, there's been more studies showing that adolescents in society are growing up to sexualized media and becoming more exposed and accepting of women as sexual objects, which brings about the effects it has on not only women but also men and children as well. So my proposition is that the widespread sexualization of images in the media have a harmful consequence on children, men, and women, and needs to be minimized. And I'll be showing that with my supporting claims of the way women are shown sexually in media, the sexualization of women in media harms society, and also consequences will lower the effect of sexualized women in media for women, men, and children. So for my first supporting claim, the way women are shown sexually in media, there was a study from the American Psychological Association, which basically did a study on sexualization of girls in media and the exposure to youth that increases women as sexual objects. So a quote from them is that examining various media, the findings proved girls are portrayed in a sexual manner more often than boys, dressed in revealing clothing with bodily postures or facial expressions that imply sexual readiness. So women and girls are also more likely to be indicated and portrayed in a sexual manner. Now, there's multiple different studies that have been done on this. So PBS also did a story on Vogue, which Vogue back in 2010 did a very controversial cover, and the cover was showing 10-year-olds being only dressed in jewels instead of wearing clothes. So, and they were looking seductively into the cameras and everything else. So it became a huge problem for Vogue as well as anybody who was part of the feminist movement and media viewers as well, because they were basically being portrayed as sexy and stuff like that towards older men in order to attract them. And there was also another study by University at Buffalo's sociologists on the Rolling Stone covers from 1967 to 2009, and the growing sexualization of men and women, but more so in women. So basically they were showing that they did over 1,000 images, and over those years it's become worse. So for my second claim, the sexualization of women in media harms society. There are multiple reasons why this is. It causes mental harm in various forms. So a writer from Huffington Post went ahead and looked at multiple studies in order to draw conclusions and stuff like that. So it causes anxiety, eating disorders, lowered self-esteem, depression, or even anorexia. And because of media sexualizing women, it makes women feel like they have to look a specific way in order to be accepted in society. And men end up having an unrealistic expectation of women because of the sexualized media images. So it has a negative effect on them because they're looking at women as sexual objects, and it jeopardizes a man's ability to maintain intimate relationships. So for my third claim, consequences will lower the effect of sexualized women in media for women, men, and children. Maybe bringing awareness to sexualized women in media on social media will help alert more people in the harmful effects that it has. And we should make adolescents watch documentaries during school so that they're brought to the attention You can even petition any media that over-sexualize women and girls. And minimizing the sexual exploitation of women in media will lower the harmfulness. And so basically, I hope this brings to attention that women being sexualized in media has a very negative effect on not only women in general, but men and children as well. And I hope I proved that to you. Thank you.
All right, Justine, the proposition, it gets a little buried. There's a lot of background information before you get to it, and sometimes it sounded like those were going to be the things that were going to be the propositional statement, but you did identify a propositional statement that was more explicit. It did have two parts to it, so you want to simplify it and just focus on the one part. The preview is okay, except it's the same thing that I've seen in a couple of the other speeches. We're getting topics instead of claims, and you want them to be expressed as declarative sentences. Usually we can figure out what the inference is on those points, but I don't think you want to force the audience to do that work. You want to do the work for them. The structure, though, is signposted in the body of the speech, so we can follow along. That's pretty good. But like I said, the secondary points are not really phrased as declarative claims. They're often just topic areas that you're going to be presenting information on. The information that you present, I don't think there's a lot of dispute that there's sexualization and that women are more likely to be sexualized, especially in the media. So I'm not exactly sure that's controversial. You mentioned a couple of examples that I think illustrate this pretty well, so that's fine. That this is substantially different than it has been in the past, that's something I think that you might need to demonstrate. If you think things are getting worse or it's substantially different than it once was, and that's the reason that we should be paying even more attention to this, then we have to have some comparative data, and we don't get anything like that. On the second point where you're talking about harms, I'm not exactly sure what the harms are to women, except that you've got this one general statement that it might cause anxiety and depression and esteem and eating disorders. And at best, it sounds like somebody is paraphrasing a whole bunch of studies. That's a secondary source that you're citing there. You ought to be citing those sources. Don't rely on the Huffington Post to do your research for you. Those are the arguments that I think that you want to be making, and so you need to get that data into your speech. The idea that women might be influenced about how they appear because of the images that go in the media, I think that that's probably true. I think that's what fashion is. It defines itself that way. If there's a harm because of that, that needs to be documented more. And like I said, that one generic quote that you have, I think, is a little bit thin. The idea that it also affects men and children in a negative way is particularly vague, and I don't think that that accomplishes much. The third point sounds like a pseudo-policy argument that this is something that we ought to be doing, but there's not any demonstration that we've ever had a success at kind of reducing people's access to this or exposure to it or changing the way people think about this. If there is a program that has successfully discouraged people from consuming this sort of material, or they become more critical thinkers as a consequence, and therefore they are less likely to make the negative inferences that you say exist on the second point, then we ought to have some data on that. But mostly it just seems like it's an assertion here, and I think that's a little bit problematic. I think you do a pretty good job speaking to the audience. Sometimes there are some characteristics about delivery that you want to watch out for. We're not really a public speaking class, but when you watch back, I think you'll notice that you have a couple of things that you do with your hands. It's like the hand washing thing that you're going through, so maybe kind of watch that. Okay.